The camera zooms in on a quiet village nestled in a lush green valley, the sounds of birds chirping in the background. The screen slowly fades into a humble home where a young girl named Amora is preparing for a significant change in her life. Once upon a time, in a peaceful village far from the bustling cities, there lived a girl named Amora. Amora was known for her gentle nature, her kind smile, and her simple life. But behind her soft eyes was a secret she kept hidden from everyone. Amora's family was poor, and life was a constant struggle. Her father worked tirelessly in the fields, while her mother sold handmade goods at the market. Despite their hard work, the family never had enough to meet their needs. The camera cuts to Amora walking through the village, her mind preoccupied. As she passes a small group of women gossiping, one of them whispers in her direction. Amora had always been a good girl, but like many young women in the village, she found herself caught up in the dreams of a better life. She became close to a woman named Fatima, a merchant who had everything Amora desired: fancy clothes, shiny jewelry, and a life of luxury. One evening, Fatima approached Amora with a proposition that would change her life forever. "Amora, my dear," she said with a sly smile, "there is an easy way to make money. It's not difficult, and the rewards are beyond what you can imagine." The camera zooms in on Amora's face, torn between hesitation and curiosity. Narrator, suspenseful tone. Amora listened as Fatima spoke of wealthy men who would pay a lot of money for young, healthy babies. Fatima explained that some people would buy babies for various reasons: money, status, or simply because they couldn't have children of their own. The idea seemed surreal to Amora, but it also promised the kind of wealth that could lift her family out of poverty. Torn between morals and the promise of a better life, Amora found herself questioning her choices. The hunger for a better life, the hunger for luxury, began to cloud her judgment. The camera shifts to Amora, pregnant and sitting alone on the edge of a wooden bed, looking down at her swollen belly. Her face is filled with uncertainty and fear. As the months passed, Amora's pregnancy grew more evident, and so did the weight of her decision. But the thought of her family's struggle and the allure of wealth continued to pull her in. She had made up her mind. The baby would be sold. The day came, and in the still of the night, Amora gave birth. A baby boy, healthy, strong, and full of life. But instead of holding him close, she handed him over to a man named Ugochukwu, a wealthy merchant from a far-off city. He had promised her a large sum of money in exchange for the child. The camera pans over Amora as she watches Ugochukwu leave, her face a mix of relief and sorrow. The next day, she returns to her family. But what happened next shocked everyone, including Amora herself. After selling the first baby, she couldn't stop. She had tasted the money, the power, and the freedom it brought. Soon, she gave birth again, this time to twins. And just like the first, they were sold. But as Amora's actions became more frequent, word spread like wildfire across the village. People began to whisper. They called her the baby seller, a woman who had no heart, no care for the lives she brought into the world. The camera shows a small group of villagers gathering around, gossiping in hushed tones. The wind picks up, and Amora is seen walking past them, her head held high, but her expression cold and distant. But what Amora didn't realize was that with each baby she sold, her soul began to wither. The joy she had once known, her dreams, her innocence was slowly replaced by guilt and emptiness. She could no longer look at her reflection without feeling the weight of the lives she had stolen. One evening, as Amora sat in her quiet home, a visitor arrived. It was Ugochukwu, the man who had bought her first child. He was angry, his face contorted with rage. "You've sold me more than you promised," he shouted. "You've sold me children who are not what they seemed. These babies are not healthy, not what I paid for." The camera shows Amora, trembling with fear, as Ugochukwu continues to shout, pointing his finger accusingly. Amora's world crumbled in an instant. The man who had once promised her wealth was now threatening her life, his words a cold reminder of the consequences of her choices. And in that moment, Amora realized the price of her greed was more than money, it was the loss of her humanity. The camera fades out, leaving Amora standing in the middle of her village, the wind blowing softly through the trees. Sometimes, when we are faced with difficult choices, we can be blinded by the promise of something better. But as Amora's story shows, the true cost of those choices is often far greater than we can ever imagine. The price of selling a child, a life, can never be paid in gold. It is a price that can only be paid with a soul. You won't believe the shocking story of a woman named Amina, whose life took a drastic turn after giving birth. What happened next will leave you speechless. Amina was just an ordinary woman, living in a small village. She had dreams of a better life, but like many, she struggled to make ends meet. No job, no money, and no way out. That was until she found herself pregnant, an unexpected turn that only added to her worries. One day, Amina shared her concerns with Mama Zora, the village midwife, who had a reputation for solving problems in unusual ways. Mama Zara had seen it all, but what she said next shocked Amina to her core. "You don't have to worry about that baby, Amina," Mama Zara said, her voice calm yet chilling. "There are people who would pay handsomely for a healthy child. You could sell it and make a fortune." Amina froze, the idea hitting her like a wave. Sell the baby? It was unthinkable. But as Mama Zara explained the money she could make, something started to change in Amina's mind. It wasn't long before Amina began to see the opportunity. She could get rid of the baby, not have to deal with the stress of motherhood, and live the life she had always dreamed of. She could finally escape her struggles. When the day came, Amina gave birth to a beautiful baby girl, her cries filling the air. But instead of feeling the warmth of motherhood, Amina felt nothing. All she could think about were the riches that awaited her after the sale. Without hesitation, Amina handed over her newborn daughter to Mama Zora, who had already arranged for a wealthy buyer. The buyer, a couple desperate to have a child, paid Amina a staggering amount for the baby. Gold coins, glittering jewels. Amina couldn't believe her eyes. The money she had just received was more than she could have ever dreamed of. All of a sudden, the weight of the baby was lifted, and her future seemed brighter than ever. But Amina didn't stop there. She realized that she could keep doing this. Each time she gave birth, she could sell the child, making more and more money. It was the perfect plan. Amina got pregnant again, this time with a man she barely knew. When she told him, he walked away, saying he wanted nothing to do with the baby. But Amina wasn't upset. Instead, she saw it as another opportunity for profit. She rushed to Mama Zara with excitement, eager to repeat the process. However, Mama Zara, who had helped Amina before, started to worry. "Amina, you must be careful," she warned. "Selling babies might seem like an easy way out, but it will lead to regret. You'll be forever haunted by the choices you make." But Amina didn't care. The money was all that mattered to her now. She gave birth to another healthy baby boy, and once again, the buyer paid her handsomely. The coins piled up, and Amina became more obsessed with her growing wealth. With each sale, Amina became more powerful and richer, living a life of luxury. Her once modest hut was replaced with a grand mansion, filled with lavish furniture and beautiful clothes. She felt invincible, like nothing could stop her now. But as time passed, something started to change. Amina's wealth couldn't fill the emptiness she felt inside. Despite her fortune, she was still alone. The men who once admired her beauty and success no longer cared, and her friends turned away, disgusted by her actions. Amina began to wonder if the money was truly worth it. The babies she had sold, The relationships she had lost, the emptiness she now felt, was it all worth the gold and jewels? She had everything, but nothing at the same time. And then, one day, Mama Zora paid Amina a visit. "You've made your fortune," she said. "But now you must face the consequences of your choices. You can never undo what you've done." Amina realized that no amount of money could replace the love she had given up. She had sacrificed her humanity for wealth, and now, it was too late to go back. She could never erase the memory of the children she had sold, nor could she fill the void inside her. As Amina sat alone in her mansion, surrounded by riches, she realized that the true price of her actions wasn't in the coins or the jewels, but in the emptiness she felt in her heart. She had everything but nothing at all. Once upon a time, in a small village surrounded by lush forest, there lived a young woman named Zoe. Zoe was known for her beauty and grace, and though she didn't have much, she had a deep love for her family and friends. But like many people, Zoe had one dream: to live a life of luxury. Her family was poor, and though they worked hard, they could barely afford to make ends meet. Zoe often wished for a better life, and as time passed, she began to wonder if she could achieve this dream. She heard stories of women who had sold their children for money, and while the thought disgusted her, the temptation to escape poverty clouded her mind. Zoe's life took a turn when she met a wealthy man named Kofi. Kofi was charming, successful, and offered Zoe the kind of life she had always dreamed of. He had a beautiful mansion and all the riches a person could want. Kofi promised her a life of luxury, but there was a price. To prove her loyalty to him, he made a strange request. He wanted her to have children, but not just any children. He wanted her to give birth, and then, immediately after, sell them. Zoe was hesitant at first. The idea made her stomach churn, but the allure of wealth clouded her judgment. She believed that if she could sell the children, she could use the money to make her life better, perhaps even escape the constant poverty of her past. One night, after much deliberation, Zoe agreed. She became pregnant, and soon the day arrived. She gave birth to twins, two beautiful, healthy babies, a boy and a girl. But instead of the joy that should come with the birth of a child, Zoe felt nothing but emptiness. The moment she held her babies, she handed them over to strangers in exchange for a large sum of money. She didn't even say goodbye to her children. To Zoe, they were just a means to an end, a way to secure her future. At first, Zoe enjoyed the wealth that came with her decision. She bought clothes, jewelry, and a house that was even grander than the one she had dreamed of. But soon, the luxury she thought would make her happy began to feel hollow. She looked around at the things she had bought with the money from her children, and for the first time, she realized what she had lost. Days turned into months, and Zoe's guilt began to grow. The once adoring friends who had admired her now whispered behind her back. Rumors spread that she had sold her own flesh and blood, and the villagers began to turn their backs on her. She was no longer seen as the graceful woman she once was, but as someone who had sold out her own children for money. One day, a man came to Zoe's door. His eyes were filled with sorrow, and he had a question that made Zoe's blood run cold. "Where is my child?" he demanded. Zoe froze, unsure of what to say. She tried to cover the truth with a lie, telling him she had lost the baby. But the man didn't believe her, and his anger only grew. Soon, other men came knocking on her door, each asking for the child she had taken from them. Zoe's life was falling apart. The riches that once seemed so appealing now felt like chains that bound her to a past she couldn't escape. And the lies she had told only made things worse. The villagers began to turn against her, calling her a monster. They demanded that she return the children, but Zoe had no idea where they were. She had sold them to people from distant towns, and they were lost to her forever. Desperate, Zoe traveled from village to village, knocking on doors and begging the people who had taken her children to return them. But no one would listen. They had grown fond of the children, and to them, they were no longer just babies, they were part of their families. Zoe's journey was fruitless. The people she had trusted to buy her children now rejected her, and the once beautiful life she had built was nothing more than a shattered dream. When Zoe returned to her village, there was no one left to welcome her. Her family had disowned her, her friends had turned away, and the villagers were outraged. She had traded her children for gold, and now she had nothing. Zoe knew that her actions had consequences, and the weight of her guilt was more than she could bear. She had everything she thought she wanted: wealth, luxury, and power, but at what cost? The one thing she could never replace was the love and innocence of her children, and now it was too late to undo the damage she had done. In the end, Zoe lost everything. Her riches, her pride, and her dignity were all gone, and she was left with nothing but the pain of knowing that her choices had led her down a dark and lonely path. Her story became a cautionary tale for the villagers. They told their children, never trade your soul for wealth. True happiness comes not from what you own, but from the love and relationships you cherish. Zoe spent the rest of her life in solitude, haunted by the memories of what she had done. She realized too late that the love she had taken for granted was the only thing that truly mattered. I hope you found this story impactful. Please like the video, comment what lesson you learned from it, and don't forget to subscribe for more powerful tales like this one. Thank you for watching.